Okay, and the meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, terrific. Thanks very much, Jody. Again, apologies for running late. We're coming from a different meeting. It is 9:28 and we have a quorum, so let's call the policy committee meeting to order. Thanks for joining, Ms. Ward. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having
me. Sure. First things on the agenda is let's just quickly look at the minutes from our June meeting, and then we can approve those. Does anyone have any comments on them? I read them and they were accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, thank you, Sharon. Peter, you want a second?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So all in favor? Yay. Okay. I'm Alicia.
Hi, Peter.
Great. So that motion passes. We've approved our minutes from June. Looking at the agenda, the next is to start our discussion of some of the policies. So the first one is Series 6000, Instruction Policy for the Equitable Identification of Gifted and Talented Students. So this was the one that Jody, you were referencing that we had discussed thoroughly last spring.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to come to first read, and for some reason we held it. I can't remember why, but it should be up for first read at our next September 19th meeting.
Yes.
So there's been no changes to it since we discussed it last. So I'm fine with it going forward. And I know we had a pretty lengthy discussion with Tracy about it in June. So does the committee have any further thoughts about it?
No.
Comments? Okay.
I'm good.
All right. So let's keep that on. Let's make sure that gets on the agenda for September's meeting as a first read, along with the administrative regulations that accompany it, right? Okay. Let's go back to the agenda then. Next is discussion of policy around prioritizing things for the new school year. For first read on the book. Oh no, wait, hang on one second.
It's the advanced course.
Discussion, yep, of the new policy.
We also have to discuss the policy meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Well, let's move that to the
Yeah,
end.
let's move it along so Megan can.
Time. What is the policy that Megan's here for?
So this is the policy that has to deal with advanced course or program, challenging curriculum, equitable, etc. This is a policy that Shipman and Goodman brought to our attention. It came out because the state is basically requiring a policy for this, the importance of providing opportunities for students to enroll in an advanced course program and offering students the curriculum. So this policy was based on the template of Chipman. Ms. Ward and I did sit down and go through the policy. It's sort of providing the structure that we already follow, quite frankly. There was a concern at the state level that about access to advanced placement programs and certain courses, and that's kind of the root of the policy. So it's important that we have this because it is a state law, and Ms. Ward can take us through the policy. If you'd like to, Megan, piece by piece, but as I said, it's sort of codifying what we've already been doing, quite frankly, and putting it in a more formal thing. Did everybody have a chance to go through it and read it before we start?
Yes, and I have it up right now too.
Me too.
Okay, go ahead, Megan. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no, that's okay. So this is just a review of the policy. So as Lisa said, we sat down and we looked at, do I read it? I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, you don't need to read it. If you could just tell us, what you think its most important parts are and where there could be any questions or concerns about it that you may have.
Sure. I think, as Lisa said, this is really about access for students who are interested in taking advanced courses to have that access regardless of of recommendations, right? So the school may make recommendations. We may use curriculum-based assessments to inform those recommendations, but then the student has the right to enroll in those courses. And, so this really just codifies that. So when we talk about advanced course or program, it's honors level advanced placement. Maybe it's an IB program, which we don't have, but we left it in there.
Right.
And we also talked about the dual credit, dual enrollment. So there are some schools in the area that might partner with UConn or other colleges. So that would apply to this policy as well. So we just looked at kind of future opportunities that may come about as well. And then in terms of the eligibility criteria, that will identify the students potentially in 8th and 9th grade who may be eligible. And this really comes from teacher recommendations based on the student's performance in school. And they might be recommended to take an honors course at the high school or advanced course at the high school. And we also have a process by which by March 1st, I believe is the date that students and parents and families can choose to override that process. And regardless of the recommendation, choose to take that course. And that deadline is really in place so we can make the most accurate master schedule and account for student choice in building our schedule, which is why that date is so important to us. Sure.
Can I ask a question? I was a little confused about that in reading this. So if a parent or a student wants to be in, let's just say, honors math class, and the teacher had not recommended them for that honors math class, then they can still choose to put themselves in that honors math class?
Yes.
It should be noted that there's a lot of work that goes in before that decision is made. Because especially, for example, math is probably the trickiest because someone that is, in pre-calc, let's say, and then wants to take AB calc, there would be a review if the student wasn't recommended, and there would be, discussions with the counselor, with the teacher, even the curricular instructional leader, because the one thing we don't want to do is set someone up for failure. And if there are certain predictors that there is a concern, or perhaps someone wants to take 5 AP courses, there are conversations, discussions. Ultimately, if the parent and the family wants the child in there and there's room in the course, we would defer to the parent. However, it's funny you brought up math, Melissa. That's probably the hardest one to succeed in if you go against the recommendation.
Yeah.
That's why we have courses now. If you want to take AP Psych, AP Geography, AP Government, there are other ones that have more, are easier, I guess I would say. AP Environmental, then you have to have a certain level of honors pre-calc to be able to, be successful in AB Calc.
So Melissa, there are a lot of studies that show that, taking just one AP class, for example, with a student, perhaps if it's a student that struggles academically, but if they can find a way to take one AP class, they tend to do better overall, and they tend to have a better academic outcome through graduation and continuing education and things like that. There's all kinds of studies that support that. However, that a lot of times comes down to the family and the student being prepared to take on that responsibility, as opposed to having a recommendation. Like Lisa said, like an AP Psych might be a better success story for a student like that than a math. But then there are also parents who are willing to, perhaps spend money on outside resources and get their child tutored, to the nth degree to make sure that they can take a AP Calc class, if that's what's really important to them. But, so that's how this policy works.
I think it's just important to remember what Lisa said. We believe in the recommendations of our teachers. We believe that they know what a student is able to do. We know a student's past performance, and we really believe that those recommendations are accurate and in the best interests of students. And this policy also helps to codify that we want those opportunities appropriately available to students. And it keeps in mind that a student could have had a bad year, right? So because a student had a bad year, maybe something went on with their family, things were not going so great, they failed a final, whatever, right? And so that may have been an isolated kind of environmental situational incident that we also don't want to hold kids back from having advanced opportunities. So this really just ensures that schools are doing what they need to do to ensure that opportunities are available.
One of the big things in the policy also, and it came from the state, and it's the line where they say, even if they are not identified as eligible in grade 8 or in any year of high school. And that's a big deal, especially when you look at some of the larger districts. They want to make sure kids aren't getting tracked into certain classes.
Yes.
And so I think that we pride ourselves in Weston on being able to have that flexibility, much more
Right.
so than perhaps a school that's, school district that's 2 and 3 times the size of our district.
I think that and also relieves some pressure too. When you're making those decisions from 8th to 9th grade or 9th to 10th grade, you want to do what's best for the child in that moment, knowing that there is later access to those advanced courses if that's something that the child wants to pursue. So I think that's something we're going to continually reinforce, and I've reinforced in previous districts that, this is not you get on the bus in 9th grade, right? And you're either on it or you're not. This is, you can hop off, you can hop on, depending on what your interests are and where you want to focus your time and energies.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah, the big thing is that what the state was saying was you can't just base it solely on academic performance, prior academic performance. And I think we do a really good job of recognizing there's more than just the prior academic performance. Yes, there's performance, but as Megan said, there is the potential of that student, the passion of a particular interest, the recommendation from, our counselors work very closely with the curricular instructional leaders to go over. And if there's a question on a student's placement and getting feedback from the teacher, we're fortunate in that, we're a small high school and the teachers know each other and they understand the vertical articulation that is required. Many of them have taught, the different courses. So we're always trying to make the best interest in with the child.
Okay, and then just the next piece is about the creation of the academic plan, which is part of the student success plan that we make, but really looking at the appropriate programs offered when a student is enrolled in some of those advanced courses and kind of plotting out their program of studies throughout the year.
It should be noted that this is the year, well, it was supposed to be last year and then it was put on hold. It's year one of the curriculum renewal of the developmental school counseling program, which is great because the area of the student success plan, which does begin in middle school with Naviance, really needs to be, we need to develop that much better, quite frankly, that whole articulation 612 with those success plans. And this serves as a reminder of kind of our focus as we go through that curricular renewal process. I think there's work to be done in that area.
Okay. And how much of this, other than this policy, how much of this is communicated to the parents in terms of how the placement in these classes happens?
I believe it's all in the program of studies.
Okay.
Which is something that's reviewed with students. It's provided to parents at the time of scheduling.
We also have all those documents that as the students transition from the middle school to the high school, we have those, we made very friendly documents because you look at the program of studies, it's like 100 something pages, but there's like, okay, here's the visual arts and here's the possible trajectory. Here's math and here's the possible trajectory. They're almost like what I would call visual cheat sheets.
Are those flow charts?
Yeah.
Color coordinated?
And you can look at that. They're referenced. There's parent meetings. There's individual parent meetings, all of that. The other thing this policy does is, and I think are strong in that, but it sort of sets the standard for the state about the whole idea of partnerships with families, working with families. And one thing that we are revitalizing is that school counseling component of the newsletter to ensure that there is, with COVID, it was kind of all hands on deck, but we've got to get back to communicating that on a more regular basis. The other thing the policy does, which we do, is it talks about reducing barriers, and it talks about, if someone can't pay fees or things like that to be able to take the advanced placement test, to be able to have these opportunities. We do all of that already. We work very closely with Weston Social Services. So we feel really good about what our practices have been and will continue to be under this law.
Okay. Did you guys have any changes to what Chipman and Goodman put forward, or did you like exactly as it was composed?
I'm going back because I have the original policy and the original recommendations. I think that we pretty much kept it the way it was, quite frankly.
Because we can always change where it makes sense to, or add more.
Yeah, there might have been a couple of things that we left out because we're like, it just seemed redundant and so ingrained in our practice. I'm trying to look for an example.
Okay.
Oh, I know. Providing materials in multiple languages, having translators available. We took that out, but I guess we could put it back in. We work really hard to do that. The most prominent language that we struggle with is Spanish, but anytime that we've needed another language, or like Ukrainian, for example, or something, we have some Ukrainian kids that came. They spoke better English than we would ever speak Ukrainian. So it really depends on where the need is. But we have not faced that obstacle of communication.
Well, we can always modify in the future as necessary.
Exactly.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions or thoughts about this policy?
I'm good.
I'm okay.
Can we bring it forward as a
Okay.
first read?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the only other question I had, this is not replacing a policy.
We didn't have one.
This is filling a void, right? Okay.
And the state says we need one.
So let's get that started. We know we have to do 2 reads before it can be enacted. So let's get it on for September. Both of these, this and the previous one.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well,
Thank
I
you,
think,
Megan.
we won't make you stay any longer.
Sorry it was delayed. Sorry, I
all good.
apologize.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
coming.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks,
bye.
Megan. Good luck.
Yeah, I just want to add, it was a pleasure. She should hear this, to work with her through the policy, because she's, so ingrained in high schools that it was a great discussion to have with her.
Yeah, no, good. I mean, the
Awesome.
policies that come through Shipman and Goodwin from the state, I mean, they've spent a lot of time drafting them. I always like to make sure that there's nothing unique to Weston that we want to make sure is included as well. But it sounds like we were already doing these things already. So it's important to have it codified the right way. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I think the only remaining agenda item, and my apologies, it looks like I did these in reverse order. I didn't have the agenda in front of me
Okay.
when I looked at it. Okay, so the only remaining thing then is just the meeting schedule, right?
No, gifted and talented, right?
No,
Or
we
did
did that.
That
Okay,
was
sorry.
the one that we had done.
We did it in the reverse
Okay,
order,
all right.
but we had nothing really to say about it because we talked so much at the last
I
meeting.
think it just inadvertently got left off in June, right? Wasn't that what happened? Like it was supposed to be up in June and we didn't for some reason. So I don't think there's anything discussed.
We had talked briefly about it, but we never got to the point where we were going to bring it to the first read. So that's why we put it on for September, just
Yeah.
to say that we were going to bring it now to the Board
Okay.
of Ed meeting for first read.
Yeah, 'cause I remember Tracy coming and we talked about it. Okay. All right, so let's do both of those for first read. And then let's discuss the policy committee meeting schedule.
Mhm.
And then maybe
We lost Peter.
yeah. Oops. All right, well, we still have a quorum. Let's see. I'm sure he'll join. Is there something in particular with the meeting schedule that's a problem?
No, we were trying to get the meetings on Tuesdays and Fridays, just selfishly for us in the mornings. And then we have the afternoon schedule that we have to figure out. But I believe is it the first, I don't have it in front of me. Is it the first
First Tuesday. That's
that
what we're
we
scheduled
scheduled
for, yeah.
at 9:00?
I think so.
Is that
Yep.
correct, Jody?
Does this time still work for you, Lisa?
Yeah, I have.
Yes, no, this type is great. What threw us today was because we were off yesterday, we usually have a meeting that was pushed to this morning. And then unfortunately I was running late. So yeah, we have first Tuesday of the month, Sharon, Peter, Melissa, and we're going to start at 9 o'clock. It would be better, just in
Okay.
case, like this morning, if there's an issue at a school, I like to be able to make sure everything's
9
okay.
o'clock works.
And then we have, well, the other people here, but this does impact. So we were trying to do the first and the second Tuesday, and the first and the Friday and the second Friday of all the meeting schedules to kind of,
Okay.
so the policy is fine. It's the curriculum that we have the glitch with.
Okay. All right. Well, I can talk to you about
Yeah.
that later. We can try and.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. So that's great. And do we, I think just going forward,
I have
You
a
don't
policy
have-
we need to do at the next meeting, if you want me to mention it.
yeah, I mean, I think, in
Get it started.
scheduling, yeah.
It's,
Well, that, we can't have a discussion of it because we didn't put it on the agenda, but we.
no,
can-
I know, but I'm just saying
just
for next time,
planning
I'd like,
purposes, yeah.
yeah, planning purposes, exactly. It's a policy regarding visitors and observations in schools.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna add that to the agenda for the,
And I thought there was one other that we had talked about wanting to put forward.
We can have that attached to the agenda for next meeting, correct? So we can have a read of it before the meeting?
yes.
Okay, great.
The bullying policy,
Mhm.
right? Didn't we start addressing that?
Didn't we already have did we have our first read on that?
No,
We had stopped that one.
we paused it
stopped the
for some reason.
conversation.
Do you, any
Something
recollection
about-
as to why? It's been a long summer.
Yeah, I think Tracy wanted to take a look at it before moving forward.
Yeah.
So maybe we can circle back, Jody or Lisa,
Mhm.
circle back with Tracy to see where that one is.
Yeah,
Because I think, I'm just looking at our minutes from our last meeting. Bullying was one. The student discipline policy.
That was another one. I believe the student discipline one was just a change in language. So
Yeah, the
I
inclusive
can go
language.
ahead and finish that one up, and we can put that on the agenda for inclusive language. And then Tracy can take a look at the bullying and the visitor policy,
yeah.
see if we want to bring those forward for the next meeting.
I think part of the reason was it was the end of the year, and then this summer we weren't fully staffed in that department. So it was a little
Yeah,
challenge to be able to get to it. So if we could move it till October, we can put that on the October agenda and make sure it's all posted so you can review beforehand.
exactly. And while you're
Right.
talking to Tracy, I'm just reading the minutes, the other topics that she had expressed an interest in revisiting were special education,
And Medi-
suicide prevention, and Medicaid policies.
Mhm.
So I would suggest maybe having a conversation with Tracy and getting her prioritization of
Mhm.
what she thinks is most important, and we can just tackle them one by one.
Mhm.
What in the order that she thinks is best, and I'm fine with that. That should give us, a few to work on this fall.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
All
Sounds
right,
good to me.
Thank
okay.
you.
All right, well, I think we're done with our meeting. So could I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Okay, and a second. Great.
I'll
All
second.
right, let's adjourn the meeting at 9:51. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.